Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
So I guess, yeah, so just a bit about myself. My name is Darrell King, and I'm the founder of Polar 7. We are an IT consulting and services company specializing in cloud technologies. We've been running for about 3 years, and we are the experts at accelerating organizations' adoption of cloud technologies. So we've done things, we're predominantly focused on AWS, migration lifts and shifts, but what we've realized is that the organizations are beginning to move up the stack quite quickly, and cloud delivery is one of those things that is beginning to show its head and looking at delivering platforms more quickly on AWS infrastructure. So our highly experienced consultants have advised and completed successful projects for top Australian companies. So for example, Fairfax, Kaplan, which is an education company, and others. I think everyone knows Fairfax, which is fair to say. So what is continuous delivery? So if you think about, let's think about it this way. So say you wake up one morning, you're just in the shower and you get a brainwave and you decide that you want to go and build an app. So you go, happy days, I'm going to go and build an app. You get a couple of your developer buddies together, you come in and you all hang out and you create up your requirements. You then take your requirements, get your product infrastructure, your product manual together. You look at you create your infrastructure on a cloud platform, more than likely these days. You build your application. You're happy that your application is up and running and it's a web-based app. So you go, that's brilliant. And then you EDM or do a mail out to 1,000 user base, and they all sign up. And that's it. Then you're finished. Of course not. There's a lot more that happens after that. The people who come back and look for bug fixes and updates. They will look for feature requests and all of these features and things that need to be continuously delivered to your application stack. And that's what continuous delivery is. It's a framework or methodology around how you can deliver applications to get, deliver features to your application to get feedback on what you deliver next. So great apps are not great apps unless you constantly request feedback and then implement the results in a timely fashion. Jez Humble is well known in the continuous delivery. His statement on what it is continuous delivery is about making sure your software is always deployable throughout its life cycle so you can maximize feedback. Again, that's in around the same thing of, well, I have an application, how do I get my feature requests to it? How do I reduce the cost of ensuring that I can get features and requests to my application quickly? There's another guy who's well known in this field is Martin Fowler, and his definition of continuous delivery is that continuous delivery is a software development discipline where you build software in such a way that the software can be released to production at any time. And again, if you think about the whole stack from conception to delivery of your application or your code to your application stack, you're always wondering what is the best way, what does the customer want, and what do I need to do to ensure that it gets to them in a reliable and structured manner. Again, so continuous delivery is all about filling the business need. So filling the business need is I build my software, I deliver it to my end customers, and then again I want to frequently and reliably deliver applications updates to it. So what does it incorporate as a framework? Automation. So you need to ensure that delivery process, so let's say there's a new feature requested by a customer, what is the process around taking in that feature, loading it into a system, working on the feature, running tests, and pushing it through from dev to test to prod. That automation needs to come into place, and the tool sets around automating those systems. Another option is the frequent code releases. So when you have automation in place, it becomes easier to frequently do this, right? It's not like years ago where you had to wait every 6 months you do a new code release. The idea is you do frequent and relevant code releases all the time that don't break anything. You test at all stages throughout your pipeline, and only move forward if correct. So think about the little features that comes in, it gets into your Jira or whatever your tracking system is, it then gets worked on, and then if somebody commits it back into the code pipeline and it gets pushed, it gets tested, and you only move forward from that if that test passes and is correct. And what this gives over a period of time is that it has the ability of reducing the errors of going into production and also reducing the risk, because if a small error is put into the pipeline at a specific point, then it's very easy to reverse from it because it's only one change that has happened, or a small change. But to focus on those, so automation allows you to make successful processes repeatable. So yeah, so you you change quickly and safely without introducing the human errors that would result from repeating a process manually. So think about if you had to take that feature, and you had to implement it manually. Think about copying and pasting files from one server to another server, for example, and then restarting the service. How manual and unautomated is that, and the error that could end up being introduced during that. So automation is key to continuous delivery. Then again, releasing the code, frequent releases, that means you're testing more often against existing code and systems. So getting into the mindset of continually pushing code, continually testing, and doing it over and over again over time, that builds in a comfort and a familiarity with the fact that your pipeline is working, but also the fact that your code pushes are actually working and your testing actually works. The other good thing about that is that there's less changes in each release, so it's easier to isolate and fix the problems. The automated testings, again, is all in the same vein. It's to catch any errors that exist when you push code. The sooner you find that error, if it exists, the sooner you can fix it, the sooner the process can drive forward again. So continuous delivery is deployable throughout its life cycle. So think about you can, at any time in the life cycle, you can push a new piece of code and you can go and you can test it and you can see the results. Your team prioritizes keeping software deployable over working on new features. So rather than the continuous delivery pipeline is key, and the functioning of that, it becomes the lifeblood of the application. If for at any stage it stops or it breaks, the whole pipeline has to wait until those issues are resolved. Anyone can get fast automated feedback on production readiness. So I'm a developer and I push to production, I can see my results quickly and I don't have to wait 6 months for the next release cycle when I've already forgotten what I wrote 5 months ago, and then it gets released and you're like going, oh, I can't remember. So you get that quick return on pushing your code to the pipeline and inevitably to the product. And it also gives you that lovely ability to eventually at some stage perform your push button deployments where you can get a version of your software into your environment on demand. So obviously continuous delivery builds on existing principles, and it's a natural outgrowth of the Agile movement. Agile seeks to correct the problem of late, large, buggy software releases, which it does. We all understand that we take the Agile methodology and apply it to a process. You create a backlog, you're delivering more quickly, your sprints are shorter, you don't have to wait for a long time to see the results. And that's what continuous delivery is. It's an extension of that. Agile's benefits include the ability to adapt quickly, to change and lower the risk to the business. if you think of the risk to a business of waiting 6 months to deploy an application release and then release it, it's going to take a long time to resolve issues. There'll be lots of bugs. The risk is going to be higher. Another component of continuous delivery is the cultural shift. It's a shift in how people think about delivering software and a shift in work culture. So, for example, if you're in a traditional waterfall environment and you haven't even moved to Agile yet, you're going to be thinking in the longer term picture, whereas if you were to start a project, you'd go and you would find an Agile team and say, okay, we're all in the same cultural idea. We want to be able to push code quickly all the way to production all the time. So that cultural shift is quite a big thing, and that's what we've seen in environments to get that over the line. And nobody wants to spend long periods of time fixing the things when software breaks. Why not fix the small incremental concerns when they happen and then move on? Some people mix up continuous integration with continuous delivery, but at the end of the day, continuous integration is part of and is a key part of continuous delivery. Continuous integration is the practice of integrating and testing new code against the existing code base with every change, and it's a necessary part of the continuous delivery process. People sometimes use the terms continuous delivery and continuous deployment interchangeably. They are not the same thing. Where continuous delivery is a set of principles that ensure code can be deployed to production at any time, continuous deployment takes it one step further by automatically deploying that code as it successfully passed through this testing stage. So if you look at the diagram, you can see that there's a manual point between the application test and the deploy to production. So what are some of the benefits of continuous delivery? Well, some are you end up with building the right product, which is always good because you're getting feedback from customers. So if you think of a lean startup methodology where you go and you do your minimum viable product, continuous delivery is also intertwined with that idea. So you build your product as quickly as you can, you wait for feedback to come back, and once you have feedback, you then change on what the product will look like. The benefits will be realized earlier. So if you think about a team who's working on a product and they push their new versions to the product, they can see the results quicker and easier. So if I have a new product and I change one page on a button on my application to be blue instead of red, I can then quickly make that change and then see the benefits or the higher hits from that. Also the ability to react and respond quickly to change. So if you're comfortable with your continuous delivery pipeline and you're happy that you can constantly change stuff, if you have a major bug of whatever it is, you're comfortable in the fact, because you've done it loads of times and you're constantly reiterating, you're always comfortable on the fact that you can just hit the button and push it right through to production when you need to. So that makes it much easier. You don't say there's a security flaw. You don't have to panic about, oh, will this break everything? You know that you can go and implement and push it to production quickly. Innovation will continue to increase because of that. Again, because you can push quickly and you're getting constant feedback, you'll find that your teams will start to innovate and make changes more quickly to their applications. Reliability and stability. Once you have these processes in place, your system will inherently become more reliable, because if I push something and it breaks in my testing, everything stops until that's resolved and then it moves on. So it's unlikely to get to production. And save time. Eventually I'll put that in there. I think we'd probably all know at this stage that it's not a easy change to just suddenly migrate from your existing work practices with your existing team structure and just magically flip into a continuous delivery model using Agile and all the whiz-bang new tools. It does take time. There is a time upfront that you need to learn, to understand, to get all the tool sets. And once you understand those, eventually over time you'll begin to reap the rewards. Your return on investment will be good over a number of years. And the strategic impact, which summarizes all of them together, at the end of the day, if I'm a product company, we will definitely be delivering better products due to frequent user feedback. So we get the user feedback, higher benefits due to earlier releases. So our customers love us because they're getting releases quicker. Because we're getting releases quicker and bugs fixed quicker, the customer focus will be that, no, this is a great company to work with. They're churning stuff out. They're making changes for us on the fly. And also speed to market and innovation, business agility and reliability. So it's a good list of benefits. So who's using continuous delivery? Well, if you think of a couple of organizations, GitHub, Amazon Web Services, of course, who are huge, and Etsy and Netflix. Amazon Web Services, obviously, if you look at the rate, if you think about the rate and the pace of innovation of Amazon Web Services, that the services that they bring out, how many, how often they bring them out, what types of services that they bring out, they're very reactive to feature requests of their user base. So how Amazon pick a new service to bring out, they will only bring out things that people are requesting. So if thousands of people request the same feature, then that feature will get prioritized up to the top of the queue, and it becomes a feature that comes out quicker than the others. GitHub are similar, and Netflix, as we all know, are a huge beast distributed across the world, who built on web services, who would not be able to continually deploy all of their services unless they took on the practices of continuous delivery. So we've been sold on the idea. We know we want to go on this continuous delivery journey, and we look and we go, well, how are we going to do that, right? So we know we have to build, then we have to run thousands of tests, then we have to deploy it to some servers, then we got to monitor it, and then we got to deploy it to the remaining servers, and then rework that. So our existing environment, culturally, how's it working? So what do we do? How do we get into the mindset? What is a way that we could start using some of these practices? And to be perfectly honest, there is no right answer to this. It all depends. It's one of those big things. It depends on so many factors that you need to have a love-in with an organization before you can figure out what they're trying to do. So it will depend on what they're trying to do, how culturally how they're fixed, what their goals are. Like we normally run workshops with the customers and try and get as many people who are involved with it into the room for a day to try and figure out the high level overview of what the customer is trying to achieve. So questions we get asked are, where do we start? Do we have to do everything? Which parts can we leave out? Where do we get the biggest and quickest returns? And these are all questions that you have to start thinking about. So if you think about your existing organization right now and start thinking in your mind of how your organization could potentially benefit from taking on some or all of these methodologies in one go. So you need to start thinking about, well, your organization structure. For example, if you have a 50-strong dev team and a 50-strong operations team, it's going to be very different than a very small 10-person application team who probably, by the nature of a smaller team, will actually collaborate a lot more out of the box than at bigger organizations, because there's more walls between them. The people and culture within those teams, what type of devs are they? Are they interested in getting into the ops side of things, and vice versa? And your existing systems. For example, what tool sets do you currently have? Are you using the Atlassian stack? Are you using Jenkins? Are you using Windows? All of these factors come into play on how we decide on what way to move forward. And then what are the goals of the company? So if we were to think about willing participants, so when we start, we need to think about who are the people that we want to put in the team. So when we, as an example, when Polar 7 go into an organization, we have our workshops and we identify people within the organization who are keen to change, right? Who understand the process, who have an idea of the process, who would like to get involved. Because you want people who are willing to change, who want to take on these new processes and systems. And then they become change agents to filter and push that information out through the rest of the organization. Because we have to ensure that these people who we bring on are engaged. As an example, we went to one customer. We went in as a little tiger team. There was 3 of us. We spent about six months doing this migration. All of their systems were currently deployed in an existing data center, and we had to migrate everything onto an AWS cloud platform. And what we did was we identified one of the guys who was in there was keen as mustard. He was willing to learn, so he became our training buddy, for want of a better word, and we skilled him up with all of the technologies as we went through the project, so that when the project for Polar 7 came to an end and we became a support contract, we then had comfort leaving this guy skilling up other participants within his team because he was keen and willing to make the change. Another thing you need to think about is the time pressures, right? You don't want to pick. So you pick your team. So you identify 3 guys in your team. Think of, like, say, somebody from dev, somebody from ops, for example, and you say, okay, like, we're going to create a new little team that's going to be the continuous delivery team. But you want to ensure that they have time for this project, right? So if you go in and they're under pressure all the time, they will then have to cut corners. So for example, say you have a timeline of, say, we have this new application and we want it to be delivered in 2 weeks, but it's going to take 3 months, then that's obviously not a good application that you would pick to give to this team, because the timeline is too short. This is a new learning structured environment for these guys. They're not going to be able to deliver it in that short time frame, so you need to change the application that they were going to deliver. So it's also the change versus reward of these applications. I don't think it's any mistake that if you think about the first application that tends to end up on a cloud platform is normally a marketing type solution or website or something like that. The reason behind that is it is high visibility, but it's normally relatively low in complexity. And it has interesting traffic patterns. So if you think about that, you can see that it would go, well, it's kind of the low-hanging fruit in that if it really goes out, it'll only affect a certain amount of people. It's not core to the organization. And this is obviously, it just depends on other factors, but it's normally a good candidate where you could say, okay, let's take this marketing piece and migrate that to the platform, or to the new type of environment. So that's the 80-20 rule. You may also identify a piece within that where you say, well, if I take this and this component here and migrate that, it will resolve lots of the issues that we currently have in our environment. So we assemble our team. So we think around the cultural change, ID people across your life cycle, whether they're dev, test, and prod, and we bring them together for a workshop and then try and break down the barriers between these roles. So then you also need to understand your existing process. So you trace your process from start to finish, and once you've done that, so at a high level, you can see where the bottlenecks are. And once you've identified the bottlenecks, you can realize that different groups have different ideas of importance. And then there's also the thing as a continuous delivery maturity model. The continuous maturity model is to give you a model of where you're at. What that means is, say it's like a snapshot or a health check. So you're kind of going, right, I do want to do this, but I don't know where I am in this picture right now. I know I have all these teams who are pushing code. Some might be manually pushing it, some might be automating it. I'm not really sure. How can I find out where I actually sit in the continuous delivery journey? Like, whereabouts am I? What's my maturity level? And there's quite a few pieces to the maturity model. 1 second. So you have configuration. So you can see that it's set up in a matrix where you think about it and it's rated from 0 to 5. But you think about, so you look at it and you kind of say, well, where am I at with my configuration management? Do I already have Chef? Do I already have Puppet? Do I have Salt? Do I have Ansible? How is that set? On a scale of 1 to 5, is that, yes, I'm really happy with it and it needs to be improved, or it's down really low and it hasn't even started yet? There's the data management of your environment, how your data moves around. There's visibility within your organization. And then there's organization alignment. Are you aligned with your organization's goals and what they want to achieve? And then your system architecture. Does it actually, will your architecture and environment be able to be delivered onto this methodology? Then we need to figure out, what are we trying to achieve? So, for example, some people may, say efficiency versus responsiveness. Some people, if it's efficiency you want, you would like to eliminate duplication, automate your functional testing, and reduce your mean time between failures. That's in an efficiency environment, and you'll probably spend more time. Say, for example, eliminating duplications might take longer than if you just want to be a more responsive type organization or product. Then you might actually leave the duplication in and just push it more quickly to production. So from your responsiveness types, you do more analytics, say your A/B multivariance, your faster releases, care more around releases and trade-offs, and then your mean time to recovery as opposed to mean time between failure. So if I have an responsive application, it means I'm willing to let bugs go to production because I'm happy that I can resolve the issue quicker than having failures. What are you trying to achieve? So target your improvement, repeat and scale. So what do you want to see in your improvement? So you've identified at a high level within your matrix of the components that you think require work. You've identified your bottlenecks. You've picked one of those bottlenecks that would release the pressure. It's like a release valve. You then say, okay, that's what we're going to focus on. You have your little tiger team ready to go. They're going to focus on it. They're going to resolve that issue. And then how do you see the improvement within your organization? How do you measure and fix it. For example, if suddenly your issue is bug fix getting to production is taking 6 weeks, you then bring that down to 2 weeks, but your responsiveness goes up, then you know that you've measured something that you need to be able to measure your customer satisfaction that the application is getting to production quicker. And then repeat and scale. So when you want to repeat and scale, what that means is basically the continuous delivery journey is never over. It's constantly being updated. There's constant changes. Say, for example, you do your first project and you fix your pipeline, and then you come back and you fix your release dates. But the goal is that you will constantly be striving to fix and improve your processes and your pipeline. So to summarize continuous delivery, if you see this slide, it's obviously, I don't know what the quality is like there, but it takes in everything of continuous delivery. You can see your pipeline. You can see your pipeline in the middle. A continuous delivery is your idea, your product. It's pushed to production. Everyone's happy. You got your customer. You got your deployment pipeline in here, which is key to streamlining your pushing of codes into production and the benefits of it. So just to confirm, great apps are not great apps unless you constantly request feedback and then implement the results in a timely fashion. Again, coming back to why is this important, why are we doing it? At the end of the day, it's the focus point is on our customers, our end users. What do they want to see, and how quickly can we serve them, and how quickly can we give them a good solution? So, thank you. If you guys have any questions or anything, then that'd be awesome.
Any questions?
Which tool sets are you using for your continuous delivery pipeline?
Which what, sorry?
Which tool sets are you using in your pipeline?
So we've actually looked at building a number of pipelines. We use the Atlassian tool sets for some customers, and then we have an open source pipeline which is more Jenkins, that sort of tool set, and then we're also looking at building out a Windows pipeline.
Would the Windows one be fairly custom, or are there some? Sorry.
Yeah, no, right. No.
Cool. Is the Windows one completely custom, or have you got some tools you're looking at?
So we're looking at some tools. Have you seen, if you're interested in the Windows one, have you seen the real estate domain guys? Tech blog from Domain?
I don't think anybody has, no.
So we're looking at the, hang on, give me 1 second. So Bitbucket, Bamboo, Nugget, Octopus Deploy, and then hosting it on Amazon.
Okay. Octopus Deploy, is it?
Yeah, Octopus Deploy. So we've deployed that for one customer, and I've seen now that Domain are using it. So what we see is we've been more the Atlassian and the Jenkins type route, but we realize now that a lot more people are getting into the Windows deployment side of things. So we're going to just add a new pipeline for the Windows.
Have you had a look at the, is it called Code Deploy, the latest product by Amazon?
Code Deploy, yes.
What's your experiences with that?
Oh, it's not available in Sydney yet, so we haven't done anything with it.
Cool.
Any of you guys using it?
No, I just saw it advertised recently, so I thought I'd ask.
So when you say it's not available in Sydney, is that Do you not use other regions, or
Yeah, you could have, you could if you
not
wanted to.
stuff in another region to where you are, where your main servers are?
Yeah, you can. It just depends. So what currently all customers, again, it comes down to that when you go in and you ask people questions, you're not going to suddenly replace a tool with another tool just for the sake of it. So normally it doesn't really come up. You kind of you focus on the other issues within your pipeline. If you start swapping out tools at an early stage, it will just confuse. So you'd normally go in and find out where they're having an issue and then fix that before you go swapping out tool sets.
Sure. Makes sense.
Question. Do you find that continuous delivery is more work, of course, for the developer to do unit testing, integration testing, and then sort of system testing before they commit stuff? Do you find that makes developers more hesitant to push commits back to the central repository?
No, we haven't found that at this stage. Again, that's a culture. To be perfectly honest, that's a cultural question of how your pipeline works. If it is making a lot of changes or it takes a lot. So is there a fear that when you push it, it'll break something, or?
I guess it's just my hypothesizing. Yes, that would be a sort of fear people would have. That it's more work to make sure it works in the greater context, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
but if you focus. But of course, but if you're focused on the big picture, which is delivering good software to the end user, do you want a bit of work up front is going to save you in the long run?
Sure. From a system and a company perspective, that's true, but maybe from an individual developer, maybe not so.
You're better developers, I think.
Sure.
I don't know what to say to that, really. So you're saying that you'd prefer to push broken code because it's too hard, or I don't know.
No, I wouldn't. I'm just hypothesizing. Maybe some would rather hide in their own local commit stuff rather than. So there's no need to encourage employees to keep on committing regularly and doing the continuous delivery, that sort of thing.
I think for us, there's no pressure on the coders to commit working code. They should be committing it as snapshots of their work as they go and as small pieces of work. If that happens to break the entire build, that's not discouraged at all. That's completely okay. Because that work's not merged into everybody else's work anyway, it doesn't actually affect anybody. It's just a repeating feedback loop. So we don't report on how often they break it or anything like that.
That's a good point, but isn't one of the strong things behind continuous delivery and stuff that you should only have one, what's it called, thread, one stream,
Mainline.
Mainline, yes. Everyone shouldn't be working on their own branches, and isn't that a principle too?
Yeah, but you need to. It shouldn't actually break it in production, right? So what it means is there's incremental changes, and those changes, if you keep checking them in all the time, it shouldn't really break that much.
Right, to the main line, yes.
But developers are still free to develop in feature branches, right?
Sure.
Yeah, if anything, as a developer, continuous integration gives you more confidence in committing, because you don't need to worry about if your code broke other stuff, because you'll get that feedback straight away. So I think it's a lazier option to commit often. Cool.
Can I ask, you mentioned in implementing the change initially of CD, you need willing participants. Did you have any experience with unwilling participants with that?
Yeah, they're everywhere. It's interesting. So we've been doing it for just over 2 years now, and I just assumed, I thought I would get more resistance from operations. So my background is operations and data centers, and it kind of fell into AWS, and then I realized I needed to get developers to assist because it was over my head. But I thought we would go and we would find developers would be embracing this, because the tool set, it's just an extension of things that they're already doing. But what we found is that more operations people were more embracing of the change than developers, which I found quite interesting.
Yeah, that's the complete opposite of our experience. It's bizarre. It's the operational people who are pushing back.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess it just depends. Maybe we were lucky, but the operational guys we got, they just went, "Oh my God, this sounds amazing! I can't wait to automate and hand off some of the, especially the tossing stuff over the fence side of things. You know, to deliver an application with the developer, made them more comfortable, and when they were doing their releases."
Did you have to put any time sort of into selling the idea to those opposers of the change, or was it this is happening now, get on board with it or fall behind?
No, it was a very collaborative approach, and most it was just purely a lack of knowledge and familiarity in how much it could save them in the long term. And what we found most, after a few months, they would actually turn and be more and would become change agents within the organization. There's not many places where I saw people decide that they had enough and went off somewhere else. I think it only happened once.
Thanks.
Any more questions? Cool. Thank you very much for your talk today, Darrell. It was much appreciated.
Great, thanks guys.